Hi everyone, welcome back to Cloud with Arya. So it's been a while. Microsoft introduced Azure Copilot, an AI assistant built inside the Azure portal. And according to Microsoft, it can help engineers manage resources, troubleshoot problems, and understand infrastructure using natural language. But the real question is Azure Copilot actually useful for engineers today? So in this video, I'll show you what Azure Copilot can do, where it can help, and where it still needs improvement. So Azure Copilot is an AI assistant integrated into the Azure portal. It allows you to interact with your Azure environment using prompts like explain this resource group, why is my VM or my app service is not reachable, or you can also generate an Azure CLI or a PowerShell script. So the possibilities are unlimited. The goal is to make cloud management easier, but let's see how useful it actually is. So first we'll understand Azure Copilot and then we'll head over to the portal and see various prompts we can try. So Copilot unifies knowledge of hundreds of Azure services where we can execute various commands to manage them. So we as a user will type in something like stop my virtual machine, and the Azure Copilot will then comprehend what we have typed and we'll check the Azure Resource Graph where our resource is and what query to be executed to perform that command, right? And it always follow whatever permission the user has. It can only modify or read according to the permissions. So the next thing is the access and activation. So right now Azure Copilot is completely free. So you can just log into the Azure portal and start using it. But to use that, first of all, the user who has the global admin access will need to add the role Copilot for Azure user. I'll show you in the demo how we can do that. And the next thing is to search and make the changes in our Azure environment. Whatever prompt we have given to the Copilot, it will utilize the Azure Resource Graph for the queries to understand our environment and then filter the resources. So the benefit we get is that if you have been working in Azure, you would know that to query resources in Azure, we have been using KQL query, Gusto query language. We would have to be a bit familiar how to use that, but with the Copilot we can just give a single sentence like show me all virtual machines which does not have backup enabled, and then the Copilot will automatically convert the prompt to a Gusto query language, and for that it utilizes Azure Resource Graph, then we'll also run it, right? So now what would be the day-to-day benefits we can get with Azure Copilot? So you can understand your environment faster. So you can just give the resource group and ask to explain the resources present in the resource group, and it will give you a small overview of how the existing environment is. Can sometimes help you to connect the dots, and then we can also build, that is we can generate ready to use scripts and configurations that supports Azure CLI, PowerShell. So we can ask the Copilot to create the scripts like I want to tag all the virtual machines with particular key and value, and after that Copilot will automatically create a script for you. And the next thing we have is optimize. So you can use Copilot for checking the anomalies in your environment, like you can ask it for the sudden cost increase in my resources. You can also ask it to give the top recommendations which will save you the most cost. So these small tasks can help you in having more productivity. Now the next thing is rapid contextual troubleshooting. So suppose you have your web application which is down and you don't have any idea what could have gone wrong. You can simply ask Copilot to give the web application name, and it will automatically fetch the data from the web app like the CPU, networking, latency, or you can also check the logs and then determine what could be the possible issue that is causing the web application availability. It will also provide the actionable fixes that you can use to bring your web application up. And this logic can be applied to other resources as well, like virtual machines and Kubernetes, etc. Now, the reality check is that we have a good solution from Microsoft, but it has limitations. Right now, it's not in that stage where we can independently depend upon Copilot itself. So the limitations will be like we have the scaling limits. So it cannot perform action on more than 10 resources at once. Lists are also capped at the top 5 items. So whenever we want it to take actions on multiple resources, it cannot perform action on all. And then we have the memory constraint. All the conversation and context history does not persist for more than 24 hours. So if you had a conversation in Copilot regarding some issue or you were chatting around to know about more of any service, it will not have any information by tomorrow. And next we have is a precision issues. So even if we type down something to take action, we have to be very specific. It won't be able to get that resource or the data just by simple prompts. We have to be very specific or precise so that we can find our resources. And next we we have is the complexity walls. So it struggles with highly complex or architectural troubleshooting. And when it struggles, it will automatically give you some generic documentation answers, which you will have to then read and find more answers yourself. Also, before making any changes to the resources while we are working with Copilot, it cannot take actions automatically. It will prompt you for the approval. And the final, we have that Copilot is a helper, not a replacement. So it's excellent for generating boilerplate CLI scripts, learning unfamiliar network configurations, or a rapid inventory exploration. The possibilities are unlimited, but there is a human expertise required. It's not ready for zero-touch troubleshooting and complex or multi-service architectural decisions. So in a nutshell, it is good for some basic questions or to make changes or creating scripts or PowerShell, right? But for complex or complicated tasks, it can sometimes hallucinate. Most important golden rule, so whenever you create a script or commands, always review before applying them in your environment. So now let's head over to the Azure portal and let's use Azure Copilot. So the first thing, when we land to the Azure portal, we see a Copilot option here, and you can see we have some pre-built scripts it will suggest, like generate a breakdown of virtual machine cost in a table, provide a summary of Azure Copilot capabilities, like that. But to enable it, what we can do is we can go to Azure Copilot Admin Center. We can search from here, and from there we have the option of access management. And if it's enabled here, all the users in your tenant will have access. But if you want only some users to have access to it, we'll disable it and click on manage access. And in the manage access, whoever you want to grant access, Azure Copilot user needs to be enabled for that user. So in my case, it's already enabled. I'll go back and then to the Copilot. So the first demo we can give is the understanding existing infrastructures. You can simply ask by giving the resource group to give the summary of the environment. So in my case, I have created a resource group in which we have a virtual machine and a storage account, which is cloud demo, right? So I'll ask Copilot to give the summary. I want to understand resources in the resource group. And let's see how it answers our question. Yeah, so you can see it's trying to generate a query by using Azure Resource Graph, and it automatically created the Azure Resource Graph query in Custer query language KQL, and it found the resources currently it has, right? So now it has just given me the simple example of the 5 resources I have in this particular resource group. Now let's ask how they are connected to each other. So it has created a topology. Let's see what it has created. You can see I have a virtual machine which is turned off, that's why you are seeing unavailable, and it has a network interface card which is attached to it. This diagram which it showed, we can also go it via resource visualizer. And you can see the connection here, right? We have virtual machine which is connected to disk, and the virtual machine also have a NIC, and the network interface is connected to the VNet. So you can see here, right, whatever answers it is giving, we can also simply go to that resource group and try to understand ourselves also, instead of just querying and then finding the answers. So that is the point. Right now the Copilot does give the answer, but it's not very good as of now. Let's try to understand the next. Explain my VNet configuration. And let's wait what answer it gives. So I asked, explain my VNet configuration. It gave the answer, no specific issues found or detected in the diagnostic report, whereas I was just asking regarding the VNet configuration details, and it just checked the status of the machine. So we have to be very precise regarding what we want to achieve. So Copilot can comprehend, then give the good answers, right? Next thing what we can ask is, right now I have turned off my virtual machine, and let's ask simple troubleshooting question, why I am not able to access the VM. And there is also one more point here, is that instead of copy pasting the resource, we can directly reference the resource by going to this plus. and then it will automatically check all the resources we have. In my case, I'll choose the virtual machine and it will automatically refer it. Now let's run it and see what answer it gives. So it's just giving me some IP addresses to check from my end, but I'll cancel it and I'll give it another command. Can you check if my VM is available? And now let's see what answer it replies. It's still asking us, is this the correct resource? We will click on yes, even though we have selected the resource here. Now to check that, it's checking for the related. It's giving the recommendation steps that you can navigate to the Azure portal, locate demo VM by searching, and then you can check the status of the VM is running or not, but it didn't check itself, right? So that are the constraints here we have with Copilot. So far, everything we have been asking are just vague. Now let's try ask it to start the virtual machine. For now, it just gave me the PowerShell script. It tried to attempt it, but it was not able to start the VM. So I'll just copy it and then we'll use the Azure CLI or PowerShell to run it. First of all, I have to give the subscription. And then run the command. And then you'll see the machine will get started. I'll do the refresh and it's getting started. Now let's see what all scripts it can create. So let's ask it to deploy a storage account via CLI. So the command got successful here. We'll close it and the machine is running. We'll stop it back. Right now it's creating a storage account script that we can use ourselves to run and then create, right? So easy storage account create with the resource group name, location, and the kind. Also suggesting what we have to replace with our own value.